waiting patiently or impatiently. Come on, YouTube. Now YouTube has started. Now I have to go open up YouTube. All right, check that. Okay, good. Do a search for Theology Central. Now YouTube has started. I hear that. Turn that off. And we will begin here in just a minute. If you're just tuning in, thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate it. Just giving it a little extra time this morning, and then we will get started. Also, it was taking a minute to get everything working correctly. That YouTube stream, it's a great idea, but I have to manually start the stream, then I have to open up the YouTube app, have to search for Theology Central, have to find the broadcast, then I have to manually turn off the live chat since I'm not going to be monitoring it in any way, shape, or form. So that all takes a little extra time, but it also gives the chance for the notifications to go out and for people using the Church One app, and gives people a chance to tune in. So we will see. Have everything ready to go, and hopefully we can make this work this morning. That's the goal. That's the plan. As we continue to challenge the typical interpretation of Hebrews chapter 12. Do a refresh. All right, let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective, this is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, August the 31st, 2025. It is currently 10:47 a.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio located right here in Abilene, Texas. Now, it wasn't that many hours ago that I was sitting right here at this very table broadcasting live. It was around 1 a.m. I think I ended somewhere close to 2 a.m. And talking about Hebrews chapter 12. And now here I am, not quite 11 a.m. And we're going to be talking about Hebrews chapter 12 again. And why are we talking about Hebrews chapter 12? I know we're supposed to be talking about Isaiah 45, but we kind of I got distracted. We kind of took a detour, and we need to try to finish this detour and bring it to some kind of conclusion so that we can get back to Isaiah 45. And because I don't like those long, like last time we did Hebrews chapter 12 last Sunday, and then when you have a 7-day pause in between, I always hate that because when you come back in, it's like, okay, how much do you review? This time, I don't feel like I have to do as much review because I just literally did work on Hebrews 12 just, hours ago. So I'm hoping people are caught up. If not, go back and listen to everything because this is very, very critical. And here's what we're doing, all right? Anytime you go to church, you sit down in a pew, and someone says, open up your Bibles to Hebrews chapter 12, you should be able at that very moment just to grab a piece of paper and write down what the sermon is going to be about and hand it to someone next to you and make your prediction. Because especially if they say Hebrews chapter 12 verses 5 through 11. If they say Hebrews chapter 12, 5 through 11, you know what it's going to be about. It's going to be about chastening. It's going to be about how God will chasten you, punish you, discipline you if you are in sin or if you do the wrong thing. So you need to consider that when bad things happen in your life, whether it's economic, whether it's material, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, if you're going through a difficult time, it's probably God chastening you because you are in sin. And this type of preaching is as common can be. I mean, you just get online, look up sermons on Hebrews chapter 12, verses 5 through 11. That's what you're going to get. It's going to be Hebrews 12, 5 through 11 is for you, about you, and you need to, whenever bad things happen, ask, are you being chastened by God? And that's going to be the sermon. Well, I'm here to challenge that 1,000%. Now, I used to preach it that way, but I say it again. Sometimes I think, and I truly believe this, the more knowledgeable one becomes about biblical hermeneutics, biblical interpretation, well, the more you're not going to feel at home inside the church. It's that simple. If you care about biblical hermeneutics and biblical interpretation, the last place you're going to want to be is the church, because it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're not going to be welcomed because the church as an institution at large doesn't care about interpretation. They care about simply giving you spiritual speeches that are in line with their theological tribe. So you go to church not to actually hear the text wrestled with, struggled with, dealt with. You go to church to hear your theological team give you a propaganda speech. It's like if you go to the Republican National Convention, you get Republican propaganda. If you go to the Democratic National Convention, you get Democratic propaganda. If you go to church, you get Baptist propaganda, Reform propaganda, Charismatic propaganda, Church of Christ propaganda, Presbyterian propaganda. You just get propaganda. You don't get actual dealing with the text. I know people get offended when I say that. Just listen to sermons. If you know the theological team in which that church is coming from, you know how they're going to interpret every passage before they even open it. Because no one can deviate from the theological team in which they represent. Meaning the theology is the hermeneutic, not actual principles of hermeneutics. So when you turn to Hebrews 12, it becomes about chastening. And I am calling that completely into question. Because if you go to the book of Hebrews, I'm just going to quickly remind you of this. The book of Hebrews is written to, let me see if we can figure it out. Hebrews. Oh, it's written to the Hebrews. It's written to the Jews. It's written to Israel. I mean, there's no way to get around. I mean, it's literally called Hebrews. If you read the book, it's filled with things about the temple, the priesthood, sacrificial system, clearly to Jewish readers. Clearly it is. And then if you understand the historical context, it's written just prior to the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. And all the warnings are to Jews. And basically the warning is this: don't go back to Judaism. Don't cling to Judaism. Because if you cling to it, you're going to be left with no sacrifice, no priest, no anything. Because that system is collapsing and is disappearing and it's about to be wiped off the face of the earth. Run to Christ. Cling to Christ. I mean, that's how you interpret the book. And yet, pastor after pastor forgets the Hebrews, even though in a book called the Hebrews, they will mention them in their introduction, but all the interpretation is about us. It's about us. It's about us. It's about us. It's about us. So I've been challenging you to go through Hebrews 12 verse by verse and write down kind of an introduction, a very summarized introduction of every verse in light of 70 AD. And so far we have worked through verse 1 all the way down to verse 11. We have covered all of them. Now I'm going to read them briefly, make brief comment, and then our goal here is 12 through 17. That's what we're going to try to accomplish. And then we're getting, then the rest of it, I think, falls into place pretty easily. But that's the goal, 12 through 17. But let's read it relatively quickly. Wherefore, seeing that we are the Jews, right? The author is connecting himself to the Jews. Wherefore we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. That great cloud of witnesses is Hebrews chapter 11. And all of those people that are listed would be heroes of the faith for the Jews, for Jewish believers. They would know their stories. They would know those names. They would know what those people went through. right? So we're compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. Let us lay aside every weight. Now, we believe the weight in light of 70 AD and the fact that it's Jewish believers. The weight is the weight of the old system, the old covenantal system, the sacrificial system, the Levitical laws, the temple, the priesthood, all of that. It's not sinful, but it's going to serve as a weight to these Jewish believers because Christ has come, died, buried, rose the third day, and ascended to the right hand of the Father. If they keep clinging to that, it's going to be a weight that's going to drag them down because that system is about to be destroyed. Let us lay aside every weight and sin. The sin here would be the sin of basically apostasy, of turning from Christ to go back to Judaism. So get rid of the weight. Get rid of the sin, which does so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before them. The race that is set before them is the race of clinging to Christ and walking away from everything of the old covenant while everything is being destroyed around them. It's to run that race. If you think about it this way, in Hebrews 11, it refers to those heroes of the faith as holding on to the promises, even though they never yet received them. They did not yet receive those promises, but they clung to them by faith. Well, for the Jews in 66, 67, 68, 69, 70 AD, they're going to hold on to Christ, hold on to the promises made to the nation of Israel, even though they're not going to see them fulfilled. But what they're going to see is the temple destroyed, Jerusalem destroyed, and them scattered. Their national identity stripped from them. They're going to have to run this race of holding on to Christ, believing those promises will be fulfilled someday, and follow Christ. It's very similar to the Hebrews 11, to those very people which they were pointed to. I mean, there's so much there we could take apart, but yeah, you get the idea. And in fact, if you look at Hebrews 11:39, and these all those people that are named, having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promises, God having provided some better things for us that they without us should not be made perfect. Those individuals receive not the promise. They're going to have to run a race. Where's the promise? Where's the promise of the land? Where's the promise of the restoration? Where's the promise of all these things? Well, they're going to have to hold on to that, and they're going to have to run this race holding on to that. Well, literally everything around them is being stripped from them and being destroyed. All right? Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. They have to look to Christ, not look to the old covenantal system, not look to the shadows, look to the fulfillment, which is Christ. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your minds. You're going to have to consider Christ, or you're going to become weary. You're going to become faint in your own minds, because it's going to be you're going to get very like, where is God in all of this? You have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. Now, if that sin is the sin that's mentioned earlier, then it's like you've not shed blood yet, trying to resist apostasy and going back to Judaism. Maybe that's what it's referencing. Verse 5, now here we go. And ye, Israel, Jews, you have forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children. My son, despise not thou the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. Israel is specifically, explicitly referred to as God's son in the Old Testament. This is clear language. Israel, you are God's son. You have forgotten the exhortation. My son, despise not now the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. Israel is about to experience the chastening of the Lord. They're about to experience judgment for their rejection of the Messiah and all the other things that they have done. They are about to be destroyed as a nation, scattered, religious identity gone, national identity gone, and they're being chastened. They're going to be set aside till the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. During this chastening, they need to remember that does not mean that God has abandoned them, that God is done with them. No, it proves that they are his son. They are his children. The chastening is not proof of God abandoning them. It's proof that they are still and remain God's son, and he will fulfill those promises at some point. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If you endure chastening, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if you be without chastisement, wherefore all are partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live? For they verily for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. Israel's being chastened. They're being set aside, but we know according to Ezekiel and Jeremiah, God has made a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, and there will come a time they will be regathered, they will be restored, they will be regenerated, their old heart will be replaced with a heart of flesh, they will walk in holiness, they will walk in his ways, they will walk in obedience, and we know that has not occurred yet. The chastening is not proof of abandonment. The chastening is proof that they are sons, and because they are sons, God will do this and to ultimately bring them to holiness and salvation. Romans 11, all Israel will be saved. Verse 11, now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. It will produce the fruit of righteousness at the appropriate time. Those at this time, though, what can they do? They got to get rid of the weight. They got to stop looking back to all of the old system. They got to get rid of the sin that so easily besets them, which is the sin of apostasy, of going back to that system. And they got to run the race. And they're going to have to run the race just like the people in Hebrews 11 ran the race. And that means you're going to run the race without getting the promise. You're not going to actually get the promise. You're just going to have to hold on to it by faith. And you're going to have to look to Christ. And you're going to have to endure the chastening. It's a powerful message when you put it in that context. It's not about you. It's not about me. This is not about, oh, wait, the weight is, oh, Netflix. The weight is playing too many video games and the sin. No, this has specific context to the specific people it was specifically written to. It's called Hebrews, for crying out loud. Now that brings us now to verse 12 through 17. Now, the way I'm going to work through this is I'm going to offer thoughts, then I may back up, offer similar thoughts, and just kind of build layer by layer until we make it through 12 through 17. All right? So are you ready? First, let me just read verses, at least verse 12 and 13. All right, here we go. Wherefore, lift up the hands which hang down, and the feeble knees, make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, but let it rather be healed. That's interesting language. Now, it's maybe interesting language to us. It probably would be somewhat familiar language to the original audience, which are Hebrews, which are the Jews. All right? So, Hebrews 12 through 13 contains language that very clearly echoes the book of Isaiah, especially Isaiah chapter 35. Isaiah 35, verses 3 through 4. See if you see a connection. Isaiah 35, 3 through 4. Strengthen ye the weak hands, confirm the feeble knees, Say to them that are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, even God with a recompense. He will come and save you. Hebrews 12. It's not exact, but you get at least some of it, right? Wherefore lift up the hands which hang down and the feeble knees. Make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, but let it rather be healed. It's not perfect, but it's very clearly is echoing it. Very clearly it is. I don't think there's any way to get around it. And I think the connection, we'll call it the intertextual connection, is absolutely crucial, especially within the 70 AD interpretive framework. So I'm going to try to take this apart and let you see this connection and why it is so important. All right, I hope so. Now I'm going to read Hebrews 12 through 13. Now from the ESV, I just read it from the King James. The ESV has it this way. Therefore, lift your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees. Make straight paths for your feet so that which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. This is almost seems like some kind of encouragement, some kind of comfort, which they're going to need because about what's about to occur within a few years of Hebrews being written. Now, I'm going to read Isaiah 35, 3 through 4 from the ESV. Strengthen the weak hands, make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who have an anxious heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, with the recompense of God. He will come and save you. Now, obviously, these words in Isaiah are written to people dealing with major problems as well. So what is the possible connection between Isaiah 35 and Hebrews 12? Now, I almost would want you to just go, okay, go figure it out. I almost want to just stop and go, okay, that concludes today's message. Go work out a connection between Isaiah 35 and Hebrews 12. Go. Because it's critical. Well, I don't think Hebrews 12 through 13, it's not just some general encouragement. I think it's a deliberate allusion. It's a deliberate call back to Isaiah 35. And Isaiah 35 is a prophetic passage. It is about the coming redemption and restoration of Israel. It is about God saving his people after judgment and exile. It is the return to Zion with joy. Look at Isaiah 35:10. And the ransom of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. Now, is this a reference to coming out of Babylonian captivity? Is it a reference to maybe the second coming of Christ? When he establishes his kingdom, Israel is restored, the promises are given. Now, we could get into some discussion about that, but clearly the writer of Hebrews is borrowing from this. And so in Isaiah, the people are weakened. There's no question about it. Israel's weak. They're under the boot of Rome. They are afraid. The armies are gathering. Destruction is coming, and they're about to be scattered. But God promises to come in judgment and salvation. The lame will walk, the blind will see, the desert will bloom, and Zion will be restored. The concepts are the situations are somewhat different historically, but they're very similar. Now, why does this matter? Why does this matter, this Hebrews 12 and Isaiah, why does this matter in the 70 AD context? Well, number one, I think it reinforces the Jewish framework, which I continue to just repeat over and over and over. The author of Hebrews is speaking to Jewish audience. They would immediately recognize the Isaiah reference. They would get it. They would see it. They would understand it. They would go, okay. They wouldn't be like, oh, look, I found a cool cross reference. They would understand what is being said here. Think about it this way. The writer of Hebrews is locating the present suffering of the Jews within the prophetic story of Israel. So it reinforces the entire Jewish framework. It reinforces who this is actually written to. I think number two, it's kind of reframing the discipline, the chastening, as a part of redemptive history. Just as Isaiah 35 speaks of God coming to save through judgment, Hebrews is saying you are now in that moment. God is judging the old covenant nation, but in the same time, he is saving you. It will save you. So it's reaffirming the discipline as a part of the bigger story. It reaffirms the goal, healing and restoration. If we look at Hebrews 12:13, I want to make sure I quote it correctly. Hebrews 12:13. And make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out. All right. So that which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. That's the ESV. This is not about harsh punishment. It's about preserving the remnant, strengthening the weak, ensuring that those who are faltering are not lost in collapse. So listen, so that which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. The goal is to ultimately be healed. The ultimate goal is to be restored. So if we look at it within the broader 70 AD framework, Isaiah 35, you have exiles in fear and weakness. Hebrews 12, you have Jewish believers who are discouraged and persecuted. And Isaiah 35, God comes with judgment and salvation. Hebrews 12, God is shaking the old order, preserving the remnant. Isaiah 35, Zion will be restored. Hebrews chapter 12, the heavenly Zion has already been entered. If you look at Hebrews 12:22, but ye are come unto Mount Zion, unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels. The same concept, Zion. The same concepts are in both sections. Isaiah 35 to strengthen the weak, Hebrews 12 to help one another endure to the end, Isaiah 35 healing, not destruction, Hebrews 12 discipline leads to salvation, not loss. I mean, the correlation it's right there. But yet for preachers, it'll turn into, if you're going through a difficult time, and if you're having problems with your marriage, if your kids are getting on your nerves, well, just remember the encouragement. Wherefore, lift up the hands which hang down and the feeble knees, and make straight paths for your feet. And they'll just turn it into some general encouragement for, it's not about us. It's about them and their historical situation. So to kind of just once again to remind you, this Hebrews 12 and Isaiah 35, it's not incidental. It's not an accident, all right? It's framing the suffering as a part of prophetic fulfillment. It connects God's discipline with Israel's future hope and salvation, and it encourages these people not to give up because ultimately God is going to come and going to save them, both in judgment. He's going to come in judgment in 70 AD, and in salvation, which will be the new covenant restoration. He's coming in 70 AD. God is coming in judgment. There's going to be destruction, but he will come. And the new covenant promises to restore them, regather them. But that time is not yet, because it's the time of the Gentiles right now. Now, if we continue to read this section, look what happens. Verse 14, follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness spring up, trouble you, and thereby may many be defiled. Well, they're going to have to be very careful that they do not become bitter. They could become very bitter. We are supposedly your son. We are supposedly your children. We are the people you made covenant with. And now Jerusalem is destroyed. The temple is destroyed. Where are you, God? Why are you doing this? We've lost our religious identity, our national identity. We've lost everything. And read about what happened in 70 AD. You don't think that could create a little bit of bitterness towards God? And then note this very interesting thing. There's a warning about bitterness, but look at verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. Where did Esau show up here? Why is he being mentioned? Just let's keep that in mind, all right? Because I think Esau here is being mentioned because it's highlighting those who would trade an eternal inheritance for short-term relief. You're suffering, you have needs, you have wants. Don't trade your eternal inheritance, which is in Christ, for short-term relief. Don't go back to Judaism. Don't reject everything to escape this. Hold on to your eternal. Do not sell it like Esau did, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. He gave up his birthright for a little bit of food. Don't do that. Esau then is a figure of apostasy, those who would trade their spiritual birthright for comfort of visible religion or national identity. Esau, that behavior is basically abandoning Christ to cling to a doomed system. The temptation is to go back to Judaism, to the visible temple, the priesthood, and that would have been intense. Hebrews says, don't sell your inheritance. Don't go back to that. Don't abandon everything. Don't become filled with bitterness and this chastening is going to be horrible, and there you may want to just abandon it all. You know what? I'm done with all of it. I'm just done with all of it. I'm done with Judaism. I'm done with being a Jew. I'm done with all of it. I reject all of it. They're going to want to go, because why? And now you got to understand, because they're going to want comfort, peace, hope, not suffering, being scattered and all the different things that they're going to suffer after 70 AD. So now if you take the Esau section, it fits, the immediate context then fits together, right? Because this section is kind of a warning to all of them. Verse 12 through 13 is be strengthened. Verse 14 is pursue peace and holiness. And then verse 15 is guard the community against apostasy and avoid the fate of Esau. The Esau reference is part of a chain of exhortations meant to stir vigilance and perseverance in the face of massive, covenantal, historical, societal, religious, every kind of upheaval you can imagine they're about to go through. Now, if for some reason, I don't have time to go back through the whole story, but if for some reason someone is not familiar with Esau, he was the firstborn son of Isaac, twin brother of Jacob, Genesis 25. He sold his birthright inheritance as the firstborn for a bowl of stew. Later, he tried to reclaim the blessing with tears, but it was too late. So Esau then serves as kind of a biblical picture of someone who values immediate gratification over lasting inheritance. Now, we could get into the whole story about Jacob and Esau, and just remember, Jacob wasn't a great guy either, okay? So then, why then does the writer of Hebrews bring in Esau? Because it seems so out of place. All of a sudden, where Esau just gets thrown into this. Like, where did Esau show up, right? Well, because I think Esau embodies the temptation facing the people prior to 70 AD. Esau was someone with a real inheritance by birthright who gave it up for immediate relief and later tried to get it back. The author of Hebrews is warning the remnant or those of Israel, you have a birthright in Christ. Do not sell it by returning to the old covenant system for comfort or for safety. The destruction is coming. When it comes, it will be too late to turn back. Apostasy has irreversible consequences, as emphasized in Hebrews 6 and Hebrews 10. And in their case, it would be irreversible consequences, because if you go back to the old system, you're going to wake up one day and there's going to be no more priest, no more temple, no more sacrificial system, no more anything. So in the first century Jewish context, the birthright is not just heaven, it's the new covenant inheritance, forgiveness, access to God, Christ's priesthood, the heavenly assembly, everything. The single meal represents the visible comfort of the old system, Levitical priesthood, national identity. To walk away from Christ, even under pressure, is trading your eternal things for temporary relief. Esau's tears symbolize regret without repentance. Once the shaking comes in 70 AD, there will be no turning back. Esau is invoked as a covenantal warning. Just like him, you may have an external connection to the promise, but if you turn away, you lose your actual inheritance. So if we want to draw a correlation, Esau had a birthright. The audience that's being written to in Hebrews chapter 12, they have a birthright, are heirs of the new covenant. They're heirs of the new covenant. Think of it that way. Esau traded it for immediate comfort. The recipients of Hebrews 12 are being tempted to return back to Judaism for safety, for comfort. Esau could not regain the blessing. Apostasy would have irreversible consequences to the original recipients of Hebrews 12 because if they go back to a system that's no longer going to exist. Esau wept with regret, not repentance, and there's a danger of rejecting grace under pressure. And if you look at the rest of it, I'm going to read verse 15 through 17, looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness spring up, trouble you, and thereby many be defiled, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For you know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. And there's these warnings in Hebrews about going back and like, well, can you be even restored? Well, the point is you cannot be restored no matter how much you cry if you go back to a system that's not going to leave you with no sacrifice, no priest, no intercessor, no advocate, no temple, no anything. So stay true and follow Christ. Run the race. Run the race. Get rid of the weight. Get rid of the sin that so doth easily beset us. Run this race. Stay faithful to Christ. Cling to Him. And that's Hebrews 12 through 17. It borrows from Isaiah and it borrows from Genesis. Perfect for the Jewish audience. Perfect for them. Now, I could go to the next section, but if I go to the next section, well, then we're already at 36 minutes. I know I could go over an hour, but I'm trying to do these in smaller sections because I'm trying to get you to walk through each section and really take the time to meditate and consider how this, I shouldn't even call it a new interpretation, how this interpretation makes the most sense within its context and who it's written to. I know it destroys every sermon you've ever heard on Hebrews. I know. Because every sermon is about you. You're not the recipient. You're not in view. It is the Hebrews and their covenant relationship with God. I know that bothers you. But that's why you can just, go pick any church and you'll get all the little sermons that you want. And you'll feel like, I got something spiritual. Sermons, they're the enemy of biblical interpretation. And once again, we have these we, ye, you, and we always take the we, ye, we, you, us, and we make it about us, but it's not us. It's referring to a specific group of people within a specific situation, within a specific theological framework, which is the old covenantal system and the new covenant promises given to Israel. And if you remember, I think kind of a bookend, let me go see if I can find it in my notes, because I had the two passages put side by side, and I can read them both to you. Let me see if I can find them, because I put them side by side, and I think it fits perfectly here. If I can find it, just give me 1 second, because I think it works perfectly, and we tend to forget it. I may have had it way up in the notes, because yeah, here we go. Look at Hebrews 11:13. Chapter 11, verse 13, right in the middle of all of these, people from the Old Testament. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off and were persuaded of them and embraced them and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. That's the cloud of witnesses. Israel, remember these individuals. They died in faith, not having received the promise, but having seen them afar off and were persuaded of them and embraced them and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. Israel, you're about to be truly strangers and pilgrims on the earth. No nation, no identity, no religious system. It's all to be destroyed. But guess what? You're going to die in faith, and you're not going to receive the promises either. Those people in 70 AD, they're not going to receive the promise. Israel still hasn't received the promise. But you're going to have to see them from afar off and hold to them in faith. And then you compare that. Then you have Hebrews 12. Hey, get rid of the weight, run the race. All of those exhortations, understand chastisement, all of those exhortations. But when you get over to Hebrews 13 through 14, let us go forth therefore unto him without the camp, bearing his reproach. For here have we no continuing city, but we seek one to come. Hey, we have no city here. For those in 70 AD, no more city, no more temple. You're looking for the one to come. You're looking for the heavenly Jerusalem. So if you take Hebrews 11, Hebrews 13, Hebrews 12 falls right in the middle of that. And those exhortations is about running the race. And they're going to have to run this race of faith, holding on to promises, which they're not going to receive, but they're going to cling to them, understanding they're strangers and pilgrims, and they no longer have a city here, but they're looking for the ultimate city. Now you say, well, how does it apply to us? Any application has to stay true to the original. All right. There we go. I'm just going to stop. I want to jump into the rest of it, but I think now it's all falling together. And look, even if you don't like my interpretation, you cannot deny that my interpretation, one, falls within the actual textual context. It makes sense to it honors the people it was originally written to, and it clearly acknowledges the historical context in which it was written. Now you can sit there and say, well, no, I think it's about me. What's going to be your hermeneutical argument to make it about you? What are you going to do? What? Are you going to take those pronouns that are clearly not referenced to you and make them about you? Are you going to ignore the Jewish context? Are you going to ignore that the book is called Hebrews? Are you going to ignore 70 AD? Like, you can do that and you'll fit in perfectly with every church in your city. And they'll all be like, yeah, that's a good sermon on Hebrews 12, brother. Okay, but you can do that. Our only problem is, I'm sorry, you're literally destroying the actual meaning of the text. You may not like my interpretation, but you have to acknowledge my interpretation is staying true to the text, staying true to the history, staying true to the context. It just ruins it ruins church, because church is where we come to take a book, not in many cases about us, and make it about us. All right, I want to say more, but there you go. There's the next section of Hebrews, chapter 12. We'll continue to work on it. I do want to have this finished up soon. So maybe the rest of it I may finish up this week on the podcast. So be paying attention and at least finish this. I think what I'm going to do is try to take since this all started because Hebrews was the lectionary reading last Sunday, right? And so in a sense, we're continuing really finishing up our lectionary challenge. I mean, it's supposed to end today anyway. So I'm going to probably pull these messages from the lectionary section. I may turn it into just a Hebrews 12, 70 AD series. So it'll be limited, but it'll be there. And then, of course, if you want, you can just start listening to sermons on Hebrews 12 and see how many sermons get this right and how many completely ignore everything that we've just said. And everything we've said has been historically accurate, textually accurate, everything. So I know people don't like when I go against everyone, but someone's got to go against the normal way of interpreting this because the normal way I've said before when I read all the commentaries on Hebrews and they're taking all these warnings and can you lose your salvation? You can't lose your salvation. And they turn it into these soteriological arguments about us. Years ago, I started realizing these arguments are iffy at best. But if I understand this is written to Jews in Latter 70 AD, then it makes perfect sense. These warnings are perfect for them. But for some reason, nobody wants that interpretation. So, all right, there's Hebrews 12. We're getting there slowly but surely. So I still challenge you to take a notebook, write down Hebrews 12, verse 1, write down an interpretation of verse 1 in light of 70 AD. Write down Hebrews 12:2, write out an interpretation of 12:2, and do it in a very summarized way. So that when you're done with Hebrews 12, you can interpret it to anyone in light of 70 AD. And you can do that through the whole book. All right, thanks for listening. Everyone have a great Sunday. God bless.